For over 3,000 years, ancient Egypt stood as one of the greatest civilizations on Earth. It built monuments so massive they still dominate the desert today. Its pharaohs were worshipped as gods. Its armies marched across the ancient world. Its priests obsessed over death, eternity, and the afterlife. And along the banks of the Nile, a civilization rose that seemed almost immortal. But even the might of ancient Egypt could not last forever. Empires invaded, dynasties collapsed. The sands began reclaiming the temples and tombs of the pharaohs, and one of the greatest civilizations in human history slowly disappeared into legend. This is the rise and fall of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was born because of one river, the Nile. Without it, Egypt would have been almost entirely desert. But every year the Nile flooded its banks, leaving behind rich black soil perfect for farming. These floods transformed the harsh landscape into one of the most fertile regions in the ancient world. By around 3100 BC, small farming settlements along the Nile began joining together under a single ruler. According to tradition, the king who united Upper and Lower Egypt was Narmer, sometimes identified with Menes. This moment marked the beginning of dynastic Egypt, and from that point onward, Egypt began transforming into something extraordinary. Cities expanded, trade networks formed, religious beliefs became deeply woven into everyday life. And above all else, the pharaoh emerged as the center of Egyptian civilization. The Egyptians did not simply see their ruler as a king. The pharaoh was considered divine, a living bridge between humanity and the gods. His responsibility was to maintain Ma'at, the sacred balance of order, harmony, and stability across the world. If Egypt prospered, it meant the gods were pleased. If famine or chaos appeared, the pharaoh himself could be blamed. As Egypt grew wealthier and more powerful, its rulers began building monuments unlike anything the world had ever seen. The pyramids. During the Old Kingdom period, massive construction projects transformed the Egyptian desert. The first great step came under Pharaoh Djoser, whose architect Imhotep designed the step pyramid at Saqqara around 2670 BC. But the greatest pyramids were still to come. At Giza, Pharaoh Khufu ordered the construction of the Great Pyramid. Built from millions of limestone blocks, the structure originally stood nearly 500 feet tall. For thousands of years, it remained the tallest man-made structure on Earth. And even today, historians still debate exactly how the Egyptians achieved such incredible engineering precision. Contrary to popular myth, the pyramids were not built by slaves. Evidence suggests many workers were skilled laborers supplied with food, housing, and medical care. The pyramids were more than tombs. They were symbols of eternal power. The Egyptians believed death was not an ending, but a transition into the afterlife. That belief shaped nearly every aspect of Egyptian culture. Bodies were carefully mummified to preserve them for eternity. Tombs were filled with treasure, statues, food, and sacred texts designed to guide the dead into the next world. To the Egyptians, immortality was possible, but only if the rituals were performed correctly. As centuries passed, Egypt entered periods of instability and collapse, but each time it rose again. Eventually, Egypt expanded into a true empire during the New Kingdom period. This became the golden age of pharaohs, and some of Egypt's greatest rulers emerged during this era. One of the most famous was Hatshepsut, a female pharaoh who ruled with remarkable success. She expanded trade, commissioned enormous temples, and strengthened Egypt's economy. Then came Thutmose III, often called the Napoleon of Egypt. His military campaigns expanded Egyptian influence deep into the Near East, but perhaps no ruler became more legendary than Ramses II. Known as Ramses the Great, he ruled for over 60 years and covered Egypt with colossal monuments and statues. One of his most famous battles occurred at Kadesh against the Hittite Empire. Although the battle itself was likely inconclusive, Ramses portrayed it as a massive victory across temple walls throughout Egypt. Ancient propaganda was alive and well. Under rulers like Ramses, Egypt became one of the dominant superpowers of the ancient world. Its armies marched across deserts and foreign kingdoms. Its wealth flowed through massive temples and royal palaces. And along the Nile, Egyptian civilization reached extraordinary heights. Religion dominated Egyptian life. The Egyptians worshipped hundreds of gods connected to nature, death, war, and the cosmos. Ra, the sun god. Osiris, ruler of the underworld. Isis, goddess of magic and motherhood. Anubis, guardian of the dead. Temples became centers of both religion and political power. Priests controlled enormous wealth and influence. Towering structures like Karnak and Luxor displayed Egypt's immense resources and devotion to the gods. But one pharaoh attempted something radical: Akhenaten. He abandoned many traditional gods and promoted worship centered around Aten, the sun disk. Some historians consider this one of the earliest attempts at monotheism. But after Akhenaten's death, Egypt rapidly returned to its old beliefs. His religious revolution collapsed almost immediately, and many later rulers tried to erase him from history entirely. Then came Tutankhamun, the boy king. Although his reign was relatively minor, his tomb would eventually become one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history. In 1922, Howard Carter uncovered Tutankhamun's nearly intact tomb, deep within the Valley of the Kings. Inside were thousands of treasures, including the now famous Golden Death Mask. The discovery reignited global fascination with ancient Egypt, and it also fueled legends of curses surrounding the pharaohs' tombs. Despite its power, Egypt could not escape decline forever. Internal struggles weakened the kingdom. Foreign invasions became more common, and rival empires grew stronger around them. The mysterious Sea Peoples devastated parts of the eastern Mediterranean during the late Bronze Age collapse. Although Egypt survived their attacks under Ramses III, the empire never fully recovered. Over time, Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians, and eventually Greeks gained influence or control over Egyptian territory. Then came Alexander the Great. In 332 BC, he conquered Egypt with little resistance. After his death, one of his generals founded the Ptolemaic dynasty. Greek rulers now controlled Egypt, yet Egyptian traditions still survived beneath the surface. Finally came Cleopatra VII, the last active ruler of Ptolemaic Egypt. Brilliant, politically skilled, and endlessly mythologized, Cleopatra formed alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony, as Rome tightened its grip on the Mediterranean. But Rome was becoming unstoppable. In 31 BC, Antony and Cleopatra were defeated by Octavian at the Battle of Actium. Soon after, both died, and Egypt officially became part of the Roman Empire. After more than 3,000 years, the age of the pharaohs was over. The temples slowly fell silent. The statues eroded beneath desert winds. The tombs disappeared beneath sand and darkness, and the civilization that once ruled the ancient world faded into history. But ancient Egypt never truly vanished. Its pyramids still stand against the desert horizon. Its gods, kings, and mysteries still fascinate millions across the world. Because even after thousands of years, ancient Egypt still feels eternal.